My name is Fiona McLean, and I'm going to speak with you today a little bit about what is differentiated instruction, how I would use differentiated instruction in my classroom, and then thirdly, I'll talk a little bit about a pre-assessment. So first off, what is differentiated instruction? And it's simply, differentiated instruction is a technique that teachers use that makes for allowances for differences in order for students to have equal access to the curriculum. So what does that mean? Equal access to the curriculum, allowances for differences. So what we mean by that is we're not watering down the content. Okay, the content is staying the same. So we're learning the same things, but we're just learning it in different ways. And so the 1/3 plus rule is important, because what the 1/3 plus rule has done is it's taken the different needs and the different backgrounds of students and it's grouped them. And so there's a number of different groups to keep in mind that have had the same needs and the same sort of backgrounds. So some of those groups would include the top third of the class, the middle third academically, and then the bottom third academically. We also have English learners that have their needs. We have students with special needs. We also have students just with varying interests, varying reading levels, and also varying learning styles. So all of these students have their own needs and their own backgrounds. So as a teacher, this is these are groups and their needs. This is what 1/3 plus rule you need to keep in mind as you're developing instruction. So with that in mind, some of the things that I would do to differentiate in my classroom would include, again, not changing the content, but changing access to the content. So what I mean by that would be, for example, you could use assistive technology for that. So again, if you have a student reading at the 12th or at the 11th grade level, 10th grade level, they're in that class, but they're reading maybe a few classes lower or whatever, you could use assistive technology to present the content in a way that's meaningful to them and that they can comprehend it. So not changing the content, but again, changing different points of access for that. That's something I would do. Again, it doesn't have to be technology. It could be something that myself, the teacher, could simply rewrite something. Or, for example, an English language learner, it could be the content simply translated into their first language. Or something like that. So again, just changing how they access it, but again, keeping the same content. Another example of differentiated instruction that I would use would simply be the learning environment. So some students, let's say in our model, the top third academically, top of the class. Maybe they like to work independently. Maybe, they would just thrive on an independent research project. They can go to the library, research it, go home that night, write a short paper on it, and present to the class the next day, and that's great. And maybe other students in these groups, maybe they prefer collaborative learning groups, and a lot of it benefit a lot of students, certainly a lot of cultures. They learn they don't like to independently learn. And again, you can group it either heterogeneously or homogeneously, and so you have flexible learning groups, and depending on what you want to achieve. You can use either or both, or it's flexible. Go back and forth. So that's an important thing that I would use in my classroom, is simply the learning environment to differentiate. The third thing that I would use in my classroom in terms of differentiated instruction would be the actual assessments. So assessments, again, you can differentiate according to perhaps your students' interests. Your students, if they have particular interests, you could sort of tailor it there. You could also have individual rubrics where, again, it would be towards the individual, and you're monitoring their actual progress. You could also, in assessments, be very, very sensitive in terms of cultural matters. So there's a lot of flexibility with assessments, and also the form of assessments. Maybe, keep it maybe short answer, or maybe do it orally. So really there's a lot of flexibility to differentiate with assessments according to students' backgrounds and learning needs. And I think another thing in terms of differentiate, you can certainly differentiate with homework as well. And also just time, time to complete assignments, time for either more time or less time for assessments. Certainly maybe the more advanced students, you could, it's too much time, maybe give them additional work. Other students, maybe, give them more time, less time. So there's certainly a lot of differentiate that you can do with time. So those are just some ideas that I have to differentiate within the classroom. So a pre-assessment that I have planned, I'm working with history, social science, content standards, and in this specific one I'm looking at 7.11-1, which is Know the Great Voyages of Discovery, the location of the routes, the influence of cartography in the development of a new European worldview. So what I want to do in this pre-assessment is I really want to assess the prior knowledge. I want to see where the students are at, what they know, what are their misconceptions, what are the naive sort of understandings, what exactly are we working with, and how I should adjust this. So a good thing, I think, for accomplishing all of this, to really kind of assess and access our prior knowledge is, and the misconceptions and everything I just said, is simply a frame of reference. So that's what I have right here, and you can see it's shaped like an egg. And so every student would get one of these. Again, it has Christopher Columbus, and what students would write on this inside part of the egg is simply words or phrases that come to mind. So you hear Christopher Columbus, well, what do you think? So naturally you think, oh, the discovery of America, or whatever. So to kind of help tease a little bit more out of the students, I might say, or I might just help them think of words or phrases. So, who was this man? Why did he sail the uncharted oceans? Where was he from? What country was he from? Was he acting on his own, or was he sponsored maybe by someone? What about ship? The name of his ship or ships? What was he trying to do? Was he confused? Did he know where he was? Can you locate any of this on a map? Where he was from, where he was going, what he thought he was doing? If I showed you a map right now, could you locate that? How did America get its name? Did that have anything to do with it? If he discovered America. Did he ever step foot, in North America? Why? And and again, you could continue, but I think there is a lot of misconceptions about it and a lot of naive understandings, and I think there's really a lot to tease out, and so I think it's really helpful to kind of ask these questions and help them fill in to see where exactly are the misconceptions and what exactly we know and don't know. So again, this is a mind map or a circle map or a frame of reference, and in terms of differentiated instruction, you could certainly use this information for your collaborative learning groups. Do I want to have a heterogeneous learning group and put the students that really seem to know the whole story, don't have any misconceptions or naive understandings about any of this? Do I pair them with the other couple students that are like that and then see where they go with this, or do I do a more heterogeneous where I can help the kids that the students that know a little bit more can kind of assist the students that are a little bit have more questions or confusions or think they know something that they don't actually know. And so you can really use this information then for the rest of your lesson and to help you with your differentiated instruction and certainly specifically your collaborative learning groups. So, all right, thank you very much.